All right, friends, welcome back to the Blessed Family. I'm your host, Jared Dodd. As always, very honored to be with you today. Doing this podcast today here in Central Texas. We just got done with our Father-Son retreat earlier this last weekend, and man, we had a blast. 40 men, Enchanted Rock, fathers and sons. We beat the mountain. We went through the cave. Vini, what is it? Vini, Vidi, Vici. I think I got that right. We came, we saw, we conquered. It was great. And so shout out to those guys. We're going to be doing another father-son retreat next year. Some people even talking about a father-daughter retreat. We will see. By the way, hey, speaking of opportunities to hang out, our registration is open for our family camp this November 12th through the 16th in East Texas, Grapeland, Texas. You don't want to miss it. Sign up today. For those of you on who watch us on YouTube, I apologize. This is audio only. We're still having some technical difficulties. Going to need to get some new equipment, and just being really cautious and picky on that. So you're only going to have the voice today, but I don't think I'm that fun to look at. And I'm kind of under the weather today anyhow, so this works out. My voice is still shot from the retreat. And normally I would not be recording this today, but it's April 9th. And not only that, but it's April 9th, 2025. And so today is a very special day. And you'll find out why at the end of today's podcast. So thanks for putting up with me as I'm a little under the weather. Hey, it's still a day the Lord has made, so we're going to rejoice and be glad in it. Well, friends, I'm just going to jump right into today's topic. Today is titled 10 Heroes. 10 Heroes I Want My Children to Love. And the point today isn't so much about these 10 heroes as it is about inspiring you, as we always say, that your children need good heroes. Show me your children's heroes, and I will show you their future. For the same reason that if you show me their friends, I'll show you their future, right? Your children are going to become whoever influences them most. And so they need to be reading the right books, listening to the right messages, watching the right films, and they need to have the right friends. And what's really beautiful is when you find out that your kids can have friends that have been gone for hundreds of years that are just as impactful as friends and heroes today. So, nothing wrong with the stereotypical heroes of, sports and Hollywood. Well, there might be something wrong with that depending on who the hero is. But we've got a lot more options than just that. All right, so what kind of heroes do you want for your children? Well, obviously, you want the kind that lead to true character and godliness. Excuse me. Now, of course, understand the heroes don't have to be Christian. That's something that some Christian parents get wrong. It's great to have Christians as heroes, but there are great non-Christian heroes as well, who, even though they are not Christian by the common grace of God, still demonstrate characteristics of manliness and womanliness as defined by Scripture. And so your kids need heroes. We all need heroes because we need heroes to inspire us. And, a lot of the heroes offered today just won't get you there. Video game heroes such as Mario and Link won't do this. Hollywood heroes, by and large, as I mentioned, won't do this. The modern day comic book heroes probably won't have this effect either. By the way, just a little tangent. I think it's fascinating to see how Hollywood has, for the last decade or two, just been on a real fascination, if you will, or they're just really into comic book heroes, superheroes. And the reason is because those guys make money because we are drawn to the idea of superheroes. God has put something into our DNA to be inspired to the supernatural, those who overcome what natural man can do, because in Christ, that's what we become. And there are real superheroes today. There are real superheroes in history. You say, all right, show me one. Okay, William Wallace. It's a superhero. Not in the sense of being able to race trains and leap buildings in a single bound, but a man who is able to unite his people against tyranny. So let's talk about traits of good heroes. Okay, what are we looking for? Traits of good heroes. I've got a few here. First of all, manliness. Of course, womanliness, if they're a woman. But this would be traits like women and children first, which is the Titanic. Excuse me, guys. Hey, thank you for your patience and grace with me coughing a little bit today. Womanliness, like making men strong, great feats of sacrifice and selflessness, like Gladys Aylward in China, or Abigail Adams, being the woman she was during the Revolution, which wasn't a revolution; it was a just war for independence. So we want masculine men and feminine women. Those are traits of good heroes. We also want, as I mentioned, sacrifice. People who are willing to sacrifice. Can't really think of a great hero without sacrifice. I mentioned Wallace. Wallace sacrificed his life in the end, right? Knowledge, people that have good knowledge, people that are truly educated. Courage. Going back to knowledge, just thinking of people that discovered what God had already made. So you've got Sir Isaac Newton. You've got Einstein. You've got people who possess great knowledge, uncover great knowledge. That's a great hero. Various contexts of heroes. You can have heroes in wars. You can have heroes in ministry, heroes in leadership. You, of course, have the martyrs, right? So you have Martyrs Mirror or Fox's Book of Martyrs. You have people who were heroes behind the scenes, right? Which very often is the great women behind the great men, as wives and such, and mothers, right? Basically, to summarize, traits of good heroes are traits that parents like you and me want for our children. All right, so what's the goal? We want our kids to have certain character. Well, find people who are there, right? See, character is something that's caught just as much as it's taught. It's something that we're led into, something that we're inspired into. All right, so let me give you, just as an example, 10 heroes that I want my children to love, and I would encourage you to want your children to love. All right, now let's start with one man who you could argue changed the last 500 years of the world more than anyone else, in a positive note. And that would be Luther. Luther, one of my favorite quotes of his is, "If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write." Or another great quote of his on the spot in the Diet of Worms was, "Here I stand, I can do no other, God help me." Where he says, I cannot recant. It's neither safe nor right to go against conscience. And so he was a forerunner for, like our First Amendment, freedom of speech, right? That Christ is Lord of the conscience. So Luther is a great hero, and I would recommend the book by Eric Metaxas titled Luther. Number 2, now, so here's a list of 10 heroes. There could be 1,000 different names on this list. There's so many heroes, but this is just to help us think. Columbus, Christopher Columbus, pretty controversial figure. Revisionists today, of course, make it where he was a racist. He was all these things. He really wasn't. He was a remarkable man. He was a visionary. He was very brave. He loved Christ. Many people don't realize, I have his journal, not the original. If I had that, I'd be a wealthy man. But I have his journal, and you read that. And, it's always good to go to the source writing. You can hear all these critics. Well, go to the source. What did Columbus actually say? Many people today don't realize that his vision for coming to to sail around the world. He didn't know there was a new world. He was just going to sail around the known world. Was to safely go around the world to provide a water path to take back Constantinople. Excuse me, from the people who conquered it and took it away from the Christians. It's one of Columbus's aims, right? But he was an amazing man, and our country knew that. And so I have a silver coin, a $50 that's minted in. Let's see, what would that be? Oh no, I'm thinking no. I do have a Columbus coin. When was that? Was it 1942? Wait a minute, 1492? No, it was 1392. Sorry, my brain's not working well. So I have a coin from 1892 that our government minted to remember Columbus a little over 100 years ago. Because back then, people still knew a lot of good history. Number 3, you have Washington, General Washington. Have your kids check out his rules for behavior in conversation. 110 rules or so that he gathered to himself around the age of 12 or so. Number 4, I'm going to throw in 2 guys together, Lewis and Clark. Man, check out the documentary, The Men Who Built America, Frontiersman Edition. Something the History Channel produced that was actually remarkable. Lewis had issues, right, and ended his life, sad story, but he was willing to venture into the unknown. They were willing to go into hostile territory. I love how Lewis and Clark worked together. Those guys are heroes. They're friends to my children, mentors to my children, examples to my children of how to act like men. Number 5, I'm going to throw in 2 people. This is Jackson and Lee. So Robert E. Lee and General Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson. And I would recommend Gods and Generals in Gettysburg. The books, which would be Gods and Generals and The Killer Angels, or the movies. Excuse me. And I want to read a speech to you. I didn't write down when the speech was. I think it was 1950s. I'm sorry, 1950s, 1960s. So only about 60 years ago or so. Listen to this speech, and this was a mayor of Baltimore at the time, I believe. He said, "Today, with our nation beset by subversive groups and propaganda which seek to destroy our national unity." This is so incredible. You know what? I'm going to start over. You have to hear this, and then I'm going to tell you who said this, and it's going to blow your mind. This is back in the 50s or 60s. Today, and hey, both these statues have been torn down since then. So this is a guy that erected a statue of Jackson and Lee in Maryland, and this is what he said. "Today, with our nation beset by subversive groups and propaganda which seeks to destroy our national unity, we can look for inspiration to the lives of Lee and Jackson to remind us to be resolute and determined in preserving our sacred institutions." So he's saying, people want to divide and destroy our national unity. They want to divide America. Look to Jackson and Lee, who were Confederate generals. He goes on to say, we must remain steadfast in our determination to preserve freedom, not only for ourselves, but for the other liberty-loving nations who are striving to preserve their national unity as free nations. Once again, he's saying, look to Jackson and Lee. And then he adds, in these days of uncertainty and turmoil, Americans must emulate Jackson's example and stand like a stone wall against aggression in any form that would seek to destroy the liberty of the world. Okay, now who said that? I can't recall his name, but it was Nancy Pelosi's father, okay? Nancy Pelosi's father, 60 years ago, said that if our nation wants to remain unified, look to Jackson, look to Lee, who now, of course, are torn down because they're racist, even though Lee despised slavery. And Jackson, the only law we know of Jackson breaking was teaching black people to read so they could read the Bible. So there's some heroes for you. That used to be heroes that liberals, Democrats in our nation used to regard as heroes as well. All right, number 6, I've got two people together, Travis and Crockett. Of course, Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier, gave his life fighting for the Republic of Texas. Travis, who according to legend drew a line in the sand knowing he was going to die. A young, wealthy, successful man willing to die for freedom. Number 7, we've got Spurgeon, the Prince of Preachers. Ironically, people still love Spurgeon. Do you know what he taught? Because he taught a lot of things that people today take issue with that are beautiful and wonderful truths of grace and the true gospel. Check it out. Number 8, Churchill. Why is Churchill a hero? Well, not only because without him we might be speaking German now. Nothing wrong with speaking German, but I'm just saying history would be very different. The man knew how to speak and write. He had the foresight to see that negotiating with Hitler was not an option. If you are not yet a Churchill fan, watch the movie The Darkest Hour. That should help. But he knew how to mobilize the English language. All right, number 9. Number 9, Richard and Sabrina Wurmbrand. Of course, the book Tortured for Christ. The movie Tortured for Christ. There's also a movie named Sabina. Check those out. I think I said Sabrina. I meant Sabina. Sabina Wurmbrand. Why are these kinds of heroes important? Because nothing could stop them from following Christ, not even the fear of death. You know, communists, their final weapon is fear of death, and that's why they hate Christians, and that's why they don't know what to do with Christians, because Christians are not afraid to die, because the sting of death has been taken away. Oh, death, where is your sting? So you need to read the books. You need to watch the movies with your family. Your children need these heroes. Going back to Spurgeon, there's great documentaries, multiple of them. There's one on Canon Plus that's really good. Okay, now number 10. Number 10 is why, despite the fact that I know my voice is shot and pretty winded and just not feeling the best, I wanted to do this today out of honor of this man. Number 10 is Bonhoeffer, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I'd recommend the book by Metaxas called Bonhoeffer. Now, why is today so special? Because today is April 9th. It's 2025. 80 years ago today, on this day in history, 80 years ago, Bonhoeffer gave his life. Or, well, he didn't give it, they took it, but he willingly laid it down for the cause of freedom for his people. He died. I mean, he was safe. He was out of Nazi Germany. He went back in because he loved his people. And he knew that the vast majority of Germans were not Nazis. And he wanted to see his people and his church liberated from tyranny. He realized the crown rights of Jesus. So, God, thank you today. We honor you for Bonhoeffer, and we honor the memory of this man who is an example of courage and the theology that breeds courage. So may our sons and daughters walk in that same conviction. All right, friends, in closing, this is the point. Whoever your children fall in love with, that's who they're going to follow. And I've got great news. God, in his goodness and his sovereignty, has given us hundreds and thousands of amazing heroes. All right, guys. Hey, we love you. Family Camp, November 12th through 16th. Sign up. Early bird discounted registration price. My wife just updated the schedule yesterday. You can find it on jareddodd.com. It's going to be a blast. And hey, let's follow Christ. Be encouraged. God is with you. Love you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.